Hello children, welcome to the class once again. Today let us see lesson number 4 in supplementary in the kingdom of fools. Let us start the lesson. It is believed that fools are so dangerous that only very wise people can manage them. Who are the fools in the story? What happens to them? Let us see now. Let us begin the lesson. In the kingdom of fools, both the king and the minister were idiots. They didn't want to run things like other kings, so they decided to change night into day and day into night. They ordered that everyone should be awake at night, till their fields and run their business. Only after dark and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished with death. The people did as they were told for fear of death. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of their project. One day, a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. It was a beautiful city. It was broad daylight, but there was no one about. Everyone was asleep. Not a mouse stirring. Even the cattle had been taught to sleep by day. The two strangers were amazed by what they saw around them and wandered around town till evening, when suddenly the whole town woke up and went about its nightly business. So it is the king story about the kingdom of fools. So in the kingdom, the minister and king were idiots. How they decided to change the night into day, day into night, and they ordered that people should not go to work in the day. What all they do at night, rather day, they should do at night. So what they do at night, they should do during the day. That is, sleeping during the day and working at night. And meanwhile, guru and disciple came to that kingdom, and they saw there was nobody around in the town, and they amazed. Until evening there was nobody, and suddenly the whole town woke up when it's nighty, when it was dark for the nightly business. The two men were hungry. Now that the shops were open, they went to buy some groceries. To their astonishment, they found that everything cost the same, a single dudu. Whether they bought a measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a dudu. The guru and his disciples were delighted. They had never heard of anything like this. They could buy all the food they wanted for a rupee. So at night, when all were going for their business, these two men were hungry. They wanted to eat something. They wanted to buy some grocery. And to their astonishment and surprise, anything they bought just for it cost a rupee, or whether it be rice or bunch of bananas, anything. And these two got delighted. When they had cooked and eaten, the guru realized that this was a kingdom of fools, and it wouldn't be a good idea for them to stay there. This is no place for us, let's go, he said to his disciple. But the disciple didn't want to leave the place. Everything was cheap here. All he wanted was good, cheap food. So the guru found that it is the place of a kingdom of fools, so it is not good to stay here. But then the disciple was greedy, and he wanted to have everything cheap, and he found all the things were cheap, and he got everything for a rupee. So the disciple wanted to stay in that place. The guru said, "They are all fools. This won't last very long. and you can't tell what they will do to you next. So the king, rather the guru, knew about the kingdom that there are fools, and next what they will do nobody knows. So guru pre-telling to his disciple, so it may not be, the result may not be good. The disciple won't listen to the guru's wisdom. He wanted to stay. The guru finally gave up and said, "Do what you want, I am going," and left. The disciple stayed on, ate his fill every day, bananas and ghee and rice and wheat, and grew fat like a street side sacred bull. So the disciple decided to stay there, but then Guru warned him not to stay because the result will be worse. But then the disciple not listened to the Guru, and he stayed there, and he ate lot and became very fat like a street side bull. One bright day, a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. He had made a hole in the wall and sneaked in, and as he was carrying out his loot, the wall of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. His brother ran to the king and complained, "Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a wall fell on him and killed him. This merchant is to be blamed. He should have built a good, strong wall. You must punish the wrongdoer and compensate the family for this injustice." So one day, a thief broke into the rich man's house and for stealing. After stealing, he came out with a big bag collecting all the things, but then the hole he made was small, and because of which he could not come out, and the wall fell on him and he died. And this thief's brother complained to the king that the merchant built a very weak wall. Because of this, the wall fell on his brother and his brother died. So it is an injustice to his family. So the thief's brother asked for justice from the king. The king said, "Justice will be done, don't worry," and at once summoned the owner of the house. So the king also said, "Okay, justice will be given," and he called for the owner of the house. When the merchant arrived, the king questioned him, "What's your name?" "Such and such, Your Highness." "Were you at home when the dead man burgled your house?" "Yes, my lord. He broke in and the wall was weak. It fell on him." The accused pleads guilty. "Your wall killed this man's brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you." "Lord," said the helpless merchant, "I didn't put up the wall. It's really the fault of the man who built the wall. He didn't build it right. You should punish him." "Who is that?" So the merchant says that was not his fault. It was the fault of the person who built the house. Then the king asked, "Who is that?" Let's continue. "My lord, this wall was built in my father's time. I know the man. He is an old man now. He lives nearby." So the the merchant says that was not his mistake, and the one who built his house, and it was built during his father's time, and the person knows him. Who was that? He is living nearby, and he become old. The king sent out messengers to bring in the bricklayer who had built the wall. They brought him tied hand and foot. "You there, did you build this man's wall in his father's time?" "Yes, my lord, I did." Okay, now the person who built the house came, and he was questioned whether he built the house, and he says, "Yes." "What kind of a wall is this that you built?" "It has fallen on a poor man and killed him. You have murdered him. We have to punish you by death." So Because of the weak wall that he built, the person died falling of the uh, falling of the wall, and he should be punished like that, the king said. Before the king could order the execution, the poor bricklayer pleaded, "Please listen to me before you give your orders. It's true, I built this wall and it was no good, but that was because my mind was not on it. I remember very well a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with her anklets jingling, and I couldn't keep my eyes or my mind on the wall I was building. You must get that dancing girl, I know where she lives." Now, the person who built that wall saying that it was not his mistake, it was a mistake of the dancing girl who distracted him. So, you are right, the case depends, we must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated cases. Let's get the dancer wherever she is. Now the king says to bring that girl, the dancing girl who was distracting this person while building the wall. The dancing girl, now an old woman, came trembling to the court. "Did you walk up and down that street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him?" "Yes, my lord, I remember it very well." So the the dancing girl became old now, and she says, "Yes, I saw him while I was dancing. The person was building the wall." "So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. You were young and you distracted him, so he built a bad wall." So because of you, the person got distracted and he built a bad wall like that. The king said to that dancing girl, now who was an old woman now, "It has fallen on the poor burglar and killed him. You have killed an innocent man. You all have to be punished." She thought for a minute and said, "My lord, wait. I know now why I was walking up and down that street. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. He was a lazy scoundrel. He made so many excuses, said he would give it now and he would give it then, and so on all day. He made me walk up and down to his house a dozen times." So now the lady complains about the person to whom she gave to make jewelry, and the jewelry person not finish the jewelry in time and give excuses, "Come now, tomorrow," like that. Because of this, the girl had to walk up and down. That was when this bricklayer saw me. "It's not my fault, my lord, it's the damned goldsmith's fault." So the lady complaining about the goldsmith, because of whom she had to walk up and down, and that created disturbance to this person who built the wall. Now the poor thing, she is absolutely right, thought the king, weighing the evidence. "We have got the real culprit at last. Get the goldsmith wherever he is hiding at once." Now the king ordered to bring that goldsmith. The king's bailiff searched for the goldsmith who was hiding in a corner of his shop. When he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. So the king ordered to bring the goldsmith, and the goldsmith also has his own story. He said, "My lord," he said, "I am a poor goldsmith. It's true, I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her an excuse because I couldn't finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's orders. They had a wedding coming and they wouldn't wait. You know how impatient the rich men are." So now the goldsmith uh, complaining this jewelry rather merchant who was every now and then who had his order to be finished, and this rich man was impatient. Because of this, he had to finish his work and later to finish the lady's work. That's why this goldsmith sent her every now and then back. Now the king asked him, who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry, made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him? Can you name him? The king asked him. The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. Now the justice had come full circle, though thought the king back to the merchant. When he was rudely summoned back to the court, he arrived crying, it wasn't me, but my father who ordered the jewelry. He is dead, I am innocent. Now the merchant was called and he pleaded that so he did not order the thing, but then it was his father. But the king consulted his minister and ruled decisively. It's true, your father is a true murderer. He is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You inherited everything from that criminal father of yours, his riches as well as his sins. I knew at once, even when I first set eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime. You must die. Now the king says, though his father was the sinner and he was a murderer, but then his son, that the merchant, who got all the dwellings, all the properties of his father, and somebody has to be punished. So, because of the father's mistake, his son, the merchant, had to die, had to accept the horrible crime. And he ordered a new stake to be made, ready for the execution. As the servants sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling of the criminal, it occurred to the minister the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake. He appealed to the king's common sense. The king too worried about it. Then it was said that in order to make stake to be ready for execution was said by the king, and the person who made said that the stake was very bigger and person, that is the rich merchant, was very thin, so he may not be suitable for this stake. So they were asking for a person who would be very fat and would fit for the stake. What shall we do now? He said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do was to find a man fat enough to fit the stake. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit the stake, and their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months on bananas and rice and wheat and ghee. Okay, now the king ordered to find a person who would fit the stake, that is a fat person, and all eye fell on the disciple who has fattened himself eating bananas and ghee. What have I done wrong? I am innocent. I am a sannyasi, he cried. That may be true, but it is the royal decree that he should find a man fat enough to fit the stake, they said, and carried him to the place of execution. He remembered his wise guru's words, This is the city of fools. You don't know what they will do next. While he was waiting for his death, he prayed to his guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. The guru saw everything in a vision. He had magic powers. He could see far, and he could see the future as he could see the present and the past. He arrived at once to save his disciple, who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food. Now, the innocent disciple was carried to the place of execution, and he cried what was his mistake. But then they said it was not his mistake, but then it is ordered that to bring a person who would fit this stake. That's why he was being taken to the place of execution. And now he remembers his guru's words that this is the kingdom of fool and they don't know what they will do next. And he prayed to his guru to save him, and the guru had the power to see what will happen next. So the guru came to know what had happened, and he came to this place to save his disciple. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. Then he went to the king and addressed him, O wisest of kings, who is greater, the guru or the disciple? Of course, the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask? Then put me to the stake first. Put me disciple to death after me. Now the disciple decided to save his disciple, but with the trick. He said something or whispered in disciples' ears and came to the king, asked who is greater, guru or disciple, and that the king says the guru. So the guru asked him to put him in the to hang him first, afterwards the disciple. When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor, Me first, you brought me here first, put me to death first, or not him. Now the disciple said the same thing as the guru said. The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The king was puzzled by his behavior. He asked the guru, Why do you want to die? He chose him because we needed a fat man for the stake. You shouldn't ask me such questions. Put me to death first, replied the guru. Why? There is some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand. Now, the king, rather the guru and the disciple, they were disputing between themselves to put them for death first. But then the king was confused why these two are fighting like this, and the king asked this guru to make him understand. Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you? Asked the guru. The king gave him his solemn word. The guru took him aside out of the servant's earshot and whispered to him, Do you know why we want to die right now? The two of us, we have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or a king like you. That stake is the stake of the God of justice. It's new, it has never had a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country, and whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are sick of our ascetic life. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Me first, remember. So now the guru plays something, and he said some lie that that stake is the stake of justice, God of justice, and whoever dies on that stake first will be the king, will be reborn as a king forever, because it was something different. So the Guru demanded to keep the word of the king. The king was now thrown into deep thought. He didn't want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time, so he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his minister. It's not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let's go on the stake ourselves and will be reborn as king and minister again. Holy man, do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. So the Guru was playing something to save his disciple, saying some lie. But then the king was a fool, so he believed whatever the holy man, the Guru said, and the king decided to die himself on the stake, and the minister too. So he told the executioner, well, we send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. So the king ordered the executioners to put the first man for death first and the second one second, and without any mistake. That night, the king and his minister went secretly to the prison, released the Guru and the disciple, disguised themselves as the two, and as he arranged beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. Now everything the king planned, and the king released this Guru and disciples. In place of them, this king and this minister were hanged or executed. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to cross and vultured, the people panicked. They saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister. The city was in confusion. So the next day they saw, and they decided to throw the bodies. Before throwing, they saw it was the king and the minister. All night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the Guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave the town unnoticed. We people need a king and the minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the Guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. It didn't take many arguments to persuade the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the Guru. Then they finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister, on the condition that they could change all the old laws. Now the people decided to have some new king to rule the kingdom, and they requested the Guru and the disciple to be their king. First, it was easy for disciple to get agreed, but then the Guru later agreed to rule the kingdom with the condition that they would change all the old rules. From then on, night would again be night, and day would again be day, and you could get nothing for a dudu. It became like any other place. Now they changed the new rules into rather the earlier which was there, and they did the same thing. That is, the day will be day and night will be night, and nothing will be given for a dudu. That means 1 rupee, and all the price will be as that of the other places. Like that, the Guru said. This is a story taken from Kannada folk tale from A.K. Ramanujan's folk tales from India. With this, the supplementary gets over. You have few questions here. Write the answers in your notebook and learn them also. Thank you.